Chapter 1. The Script Development, a story waiting for its time. Tonight, we begin not in a laboratory nor in a small Californian town square, but in a quiet room where two writers sat with an idea. In the early 1980s, Robert Zemeckis and his longtime writing partner Bob Gale found themselves reflecting on a simple, almost childlike question. What if you could go back in time and meet your parents when they were your age? It is a gentle thought, really, not a grand science fiction epic, not a dystopian warning, just a curiosity about family, identity, and the quiet mystery of how lives unfold. Bob Gale once described discovering his father's old high school yearbook and wondering whether he and his father would have been friends. That small human question became the seed of what would eventually grow into Back to the Future. But at first, the idea did not inspire confidence in others. The script was completed around 1980. It was imaginative, heartfelt, and playful, yet it struggled to find a home. Studio after studio passed on it. Some felt it was too wholesome for the time. In the early 1980s, teen comedies leaned toward louder, more irreverent humour. Executives reportedly told Zemeckis and Gale that the film was not edgy enough. Ironically, one of the studios that rejected it was Walt Disney Productions, who felt a romantic subplot between Marty and his young mother was too risky, despite the story's clear moral boundaries. It was a peculiar place to be, too gentle for one studio, too uncomfortable for another. During these years, Zemeckis was still establishing himself. His earlier films had not been major successes, which made studios hesitant. It wasn't until he directed Romancing the Stone, starring Michael Douglas and Kathleen Turner, that his credibility shifted. The film performed well, and suddenly, executives reconsidered the time travel story they had set aside. There is something comforting in that. The idea did not change. The script did not suddenly become louder or sharper. It simply waited for the right moment. Eventually, Universal Pictures agreed to produce the film. A door quietly opened. The small, thoughtful question about meeting one's parents would now move closer to becoming a motion picture. And so, the journey began. Chapter 2. Pre-production, Gathering the Pieces. Once Universal committed, the next task was assembling the creative team. One of the most important figures behind the scenes was producer Steven Spielberg. Spielberg had previously worked with Zemeckis and believed in his talent. His support gave the project stability and reassurance within the studio system. Spielberg's presence was calm and steady. He did not dominate the film creatively, but provided guidance and trust. In many ways, his involvement allowed Zemeckis and Gale to protect the tone of their story. Casting, however, required patience. For the role of Marty McFly, the energetic yet grounded teenager at the heart of the story, Zemeckis had a clear first choice, Michael J. Fox. At the time, Fox was starring in the television series Family Ties, and his schedule was tightly controlled by the network. They were reluctant to release him for a film project. Unable to secure Fox initially, the production cast Eric Stoltz as Marty. Stoltz was a serious, thoughtful actor. Filming began with him in the role. Meanwhile, for the eccentric inventor Doc Brown, the team cast Christopher Lloyd. Lloyd brought a gentle eccentricity to the character, a sense of distraction mixed with warmth. His interpretation would later become iconic, though at the time it was simply a creative choice among many. The rest of the cast gradually came together. Leah Thompson as Lorraine, Crispin Glover as George McFly, and Thomas F. Wilson as Biff Tannen. Each brought a distinct texture to the film, not exaggerated, but specific and grounded. Progress during pre-production was steady but careful. The filmmakers refined the time machine concept. Early drafts featured a refrigerator as the device, but concerns about child safety led them to change it. Eventually, they settled on a modified DeLorean DMC-12, an unusual sports car whose gull-wing doors felt futuristic and slightly whimsical. The choice felt just right, not sleek in a corporate sense, but imaginative in a homemade, optimistic way. Everything was nearly in place, yet one major change was still ahead. Chapter 3: The Making of. Quiet challenges and careful adjustments. Filming began in late 1984. Sets were constructed, including the detailed Hill Valley Town Square, a location that would quietly become one of cinema's most comforting fictional spaces. But as production continued, Zemeckis felt something was not quite aligning. Eric Stoltz's performance, though sincere and committed, leaned toward dramatic realism. The film's tone, however, required lightness, a subtle sense of play. After several weeks and significant footage already shot, the difficult decision was made to replace Stoltz. It was not done impulsively. It was careful and considered. Yet it meant reshooting weeks of material. Finally, Michael J. Fox's television schedule shifted slightly, allowing him to join the production. For a time, Fox filmed Family Ties during the day and Back to the Future at night. His schedule was demanding, yet his performance appears effortless on screen. There is something gentle in Fox's portrayal of Marty. He is never cruel, never overly confident. He reacts to events with curiosity and concern rather than bravado. This tone anchors the film. The production also faced technical challenges. The climactic lightning strike sequence required intricate coordination. Miniatures were used for certain effects. Practical stunts were carefully designed. Composer Alan Silvestri later created a musical score that felt expansive yet reassuring, a theme that rises without overwhelming. Throughout filming, the team refined small details. Dialogue rhythms were adjusted, visual effects were tested and retested. The aging makeup for the 1985 versions of the characters required patience. Yet despite the long hours and logistical complexities, the film maintained a warm atmosphere behind the scenes. Cast members have often recalled the production as collaborative rather than chaotic. By April 1985, the film was complete. It had taken years to develop, months to assemble, and many quiet decisions along the way. Now it was ready to meet its audience. Chapter 4: Release and Reception. A Gentle Surprise. Back to the Future was released in the United States on July 3rd, 1985. There was no overwhelming expectation that it would become a landmark. It was positioned as a summer release among many others, and yet something about it resonated. The film gradually rose to the top of the box office. It became the highest-grossing film of 1985 in the United States. Audiences returned more than once, bringing friends and family. Critics responded warmly. Many praised its clever structure and emotional sincerity. They noted that while the premise involved time travel, the heart of the story remained grounded in family dynamics and self-discovery. Some critics remarked on the film's balance, its ability to combine science fiction, comedy, and character study without feeling rushed or loud. Over time, The film earned awards, recognition, and nominations. It won the Academy Award for Best Sound Effects Editing and received nominations in several other categories. More quietly, it settled into popular culture. Phrases like "Great Scott" became affectionate echoes. The image of the DeLorean leaving twin trails of fire on asphalt became instantly recognizable. But perhaps more importantly, the film became something families could watch together, a shared story across generations. Chapter 5: How It Holds Up, a soft review and final thoughts. Watching Back to the Future today feels like opening a well-kept book. The pacing is steady, the humour is warm rather than sharp, the performances remain sincere. Michael J. Fox's Marty is relatable and grounded. Christopher Lloyd's Doc Brown is eccentric yet tender. Leah Thompson and Crispin Glover bring nuance to characters who could have been caricatures. The screenplay is remarkably precise. Setups pay off in satisfying but gentle ways. Dialogue echoes across timelines. The special effects, while practical and modest by modern standards, hold up because they serve the story rather than dominate it. Most importantly, the film retains its warmth. It does not rush. It does not shout. It tells a story about growth, empathy, and second chances. If we were to offer a quiet score, not as a final judgment, but as a gentle reflection, it might rest comfortably at 92 out of 100. Not because it is flawless, but because it remains thoughtful, cohesive, emotionally resonant, and as tight a script as you can get. It still holds up as one of the best movies of the decade.